Tough cryptocurrency conditions right now. Altcoins are in free fall, or they have been for probably the last 2 or so days. Whether or not we've hit the bottom remains to be seen, but ugly conditions overall. We know that when it comes to altcoins, though, even over the course of a bull phase, there are very, very aggressive, very, very violent downside dips. But many historical precedents also point to the fact that the best altcoins always make stronger comebacks because they have those stronger foundations. I want to consider if that's going to be the case today for 3 projects that we do consider to be strong. But look, we'll be critical here and we'll ask the question as to whether or not they are going to make that comeback. We're looking at SEI, Solana, and SUI, S-U-I. And by the end of this video, you're going to be more informed as to what's happening, what's upcoming in terms of the roadmaps of these projects. And you're going to get my take as to which one of these 3 stands the best chance to dominate the next big wave of Web 3. Welcome to the channel. My name is Maddie, and this is Altcoin Buzz. Like I said, tough conditions out there. If you choose to invest, be careful. I do wish you well. But just remember, I am not a financial or investment advisor, nor is this video official financial or investment advice. Let's kick off here with an examination of SUI, S-U-I, and consider it in the context of the recent crypto market crash. While most other chains were bleeding out, obviously SUI suffered as well, or the SUI token did, but we still saw some records being broken in terms of use and adoption. So silver linings here. Its daily active users, for example, are 3 times higher than Ethereum's. Not bad. It even flipped mantle in stablecoin supply, which is a sign that liquidity is pumping in. And when it comes to metrics, users are good, but it's more than just users in this case. SUI is also becoming a developer magnet. And according to Electric Capital, it now ranks top 5 globally in new developer growth this year in 2025. Right next to Ethereum, not beating Ethereum, but right next to Ethereum this time, also Solana and Bitcoin. So for a chain that launched, if you think about it a couple years ago, that is pretty massive. Let's consider the health of their ecosystem now and look back at the month of October, which was a very strong month for new partnerships when it came to SUI, also new products and constant updates. If you've been following, you know what I'm talking about. But for example, they partnered with Figure Markets to launch YLDS, that is a yield-bearing stablecoin that is actually SEC registered, which I think represents a first of its kind. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's the case. So all that to say, it's legally classified like a security, but at the same time is transferable peer-to-peer all the time, 24/7. So SUI's not just playing in the DeFi space anymore. It is starting to bridge into more regulated finance. Then we have Athena's SUI USDE. This is a SUI native synthetic dollar, and even BlackRock's USDI, their tokenized money market fund, is launching on SUI this year. So BlackRock and their money entering the SUI ecosystem is a big deal. That's a big development. We also saw DEX volume for SUI reach an all-time high in October, with the total value locked staying above $2 billion. That was while the market was red. Projects like Bluefin, SUILend, and Momentum are turning the chain into a very considerable DeFi powerhouse. Beyond just technology, though, SUI has also been expanding rapidly in DeFi and gaming. It's got integrations, for example, with top protocols like Cetus, Scallop, and Kria. Recently, they saw TVL cross $700 million, putting it among the top performing layer 1s this quarter. But like I said, we have to be critical, and it's not all perfect when it comes to this project. SUI still struggles with network decentralization because much of its activity is concentrated among just a few validators. And yes, speed is impressive, but that being said, it's still early to see exactly how it performs at scale. If you think about it, when thousands of dApps are competing for block space. Still, that being said, it is hard to ignore the pace of development, the strong partnerships, and SUI's focus on-chain games and digital assets may be the key to carving out their own niche rather than fighting Ethereum or Solana kind of head on. They're just above $2 right now. That is pretty undervalued in my opinion. Again, if you consider everything that's happening under the hood, SUI in or around the $2 range is a steal. Next up here, we're talking about SEI Network, a project that has quietly built really one of the strongest single-purpose chains in the industry. Check out our video from yesterday if you haven't already. We really deep dive into SEI in more granular detail. But as a project, this one's built for trading, and it's designed to support real-time financial applications, so like DEXs and on-chain order books specifically. SEI's biggest flex right now, I think you could say, is speed. Their twin turbo consensus mechanism is targeting 400 milliseconds to finality, which of course is under 1 second. And if you think about it, that is faster than Solana in many cases, and very much caters to high frequency DeFi trading and gaming needs. Those are the kinds of speeds that those two industries in particular kind of insist on. Settled transactions that have to happen quickly. DeFi and RWAs are where SEI really shines. It actually became a top 4 chain in TVL efficiency. So that's right next to the likes of Solana, Hyperliquid, and Ethereum, meaning its liquidity is being used very effectively, not just kind of sitting idle. If we take October alone into consideration, SEI hit over 13 million monthly active addresses and $10 billion in DEX volume over the past year, and even scored some major institutional integrations as well. It's also a strong contender in RWA, real-world assets, and blockchain gaming. Recently, and again, we covered this yesterday, KAIO launched a tokenized fund on SEI in partnership with Laser Digital, which is a subsidiary of Japan's largest investment bank, Nomura. All of this, of course, is good news and gives SEI some pretty serious institutional credibility alongside collaborations with BlackRock, Apollo, Hamilton Lane, and Brevin Howard, who are basically all in their own way in one form or another exploring RWA tokenization on SEI. And then when it comes to gaming, SEI recently ranked number 2 in unique active wallets. That's according to DApp Radar, growing over 86% in just 1 quarter, which represents some pretty impressive traction. However, again, let's be critical. Even if we love the project, the network isn't without challenges. Its Giga upgrade, again, we talked about this yesterday, that is aiming to push SEI all the way up to 200,000 transactions per second, or TPS. So the Giga upgrade is still in development, and so its real world performance remains to be tested at scale. We've been promised some tremendous things, but we'll see. That's all theoretical until we actually see how it performs in practice. So that's going to be an important checkpoint for them. Also, while SEI's DeFi ecosystem is efficient and ranked top 4 by TVL efficiency, its overall TVL and project count candidly still lag behind some of the bigger chains out there like Solana or like Avalanche. And so that means that while SEI may have the fastest engine, there just aren't a lot of passengers that are choosing to ride on board just yet. But there's also the recent listing on Robinhood, which, whether you use that app or not, whether you're a fan of it or not, that does represent a lot more exposure and a pretty massive step forward because, of course, it connects its on-chain finance ecosystem to one of the largest retail liquidity hubs globally. So SEI has made some big promises. We're going to hold their feet to the fire, make sure they deliver, because the real question is whether or not it can sustain adoption and prove performance when some of the hype fades. All right, and finally, a real OG here on our list, Solana and SOL, which is down, unfortunately, over 6% on the day, now at $164.49 as I record. It's been a tough stretch here for, of course, not only SOL, but for a lot of altcoins. But if there's one chain that has seen both incredible highs and just brutal, brutal lows, it has to be Solana. I don't have to remind you, I don't think, of its collapse during the whole FTX saga. Solana made what really can only be described as the comeback of the decade, perhaps more than a comeback, really, perhaps kind of a resurrection, because it was declared dead by a lot of people, and it went from that status to record-breaking volumes, booming NFT sales, of course, and a pretty massive revival as well in a lot of the important metrics that count beyond price, things like developer activity. And more recently, in just 1 week, we saw 2 spot ETFs that went live, those being Bitwise's and Grayscale's GSOL, GSOL, both tracking Solana. So that is massive. It means that Solana now stands arguably shoulder to shoulder with Bitcoin and Ethereum, and institutional adoption will likely skyrocket as a result. And that's part of the adoption story, but there's more to it. Because, of course, we also saw that Western Union recently announced its integration with Solana for cross-border payments, launching its USDT stablecoin exclusively on Solana across 150 countries. You think that Western Union is a dinosaur. I'm sure I certainly do. But, regardless of our opinions, there is a demographic out there. There is many, many millions and millions of people, tens of millions of people that use its services. And so whether or not we feel it's outdated, this is an integration that, again, leads to a lot of exposure and is a net positive, regardless of our opinion of Western Union, right? Which is pretty bad, at least mine is. But it represents real world adoption from, again, like them or loathe them, a global financial heavyweight. And Solana's key advantage really does remain its speed and scalability, processing over 65,000 TPS with transaction fees, as you know, really as low as a fraction of a cent. It's also home to some of the fastest growing projects in DeFi, like Jupiter and MarginFi. But Solana is not without its flaws. Of course, it has faced multiple network outages in the past, which did damage its reputation. It seems to be, as far as that variable, under control right now, but you can kind of forgive but not forget. They used to be much more frequent. And also, despite all of the improvements, critics argue that Solana is still too centralized, with a handful of validators dominating block production. And look, I know price has been pretty nasty as of late, but overall, Solana does enjoy a very dominant position. The market seems to love Solana's narrative. And again, price aside, in terms of recent developments, as a project, it has quickly become the go-to chain for retail traders and meme coins, which is an interesting pairing. I would say it's a sign that Solana as a project is not just surviving, it is thriving. So among these projects that we've discussed, is there a clear winner? Look, not really. I think it depends on who you're betting on. If you're betting on speed and technology, SEI is kind of an underdog to watch out for. If you're betting more on developer energy and growth, SUI is probably the one to watch. If you fancy adoption and legitimacy, then Solana is the clear front runner. Each one of these chains, of course, has its own strengths, its own risks, and certain weaknesses, and also their own unique vision for where blockchain is headed next. But look, I've said this before, and I'll repeat myself here just to reiterate. I'm of the opinion that the future is not just going to be like a winner-take-all situation. It does not just belong to one chain. It could belong to multiple chains, and multiple projects could enjoy, a certain piece of the pie, which is going to vary in size one to the next. But each one of these could dominate, at least hypothetically, a different lane of Web3. I think that's the most realistic. But look, the future's hard to predict, right? There are no crystal balls. Let me know your thoughts about it in the comments below. Which chain do you think is going to lead the next bull run? SUI, SEI, or SOL?